So I found this old Pez dispenser that I got as a gift, but I don't know if I should open it up because it could be worth money, kind of Star Wars-ish, but I think we should. I'm going to eat this candy. I haven't had Pez in many years. Oh boy. So I guess this thing, you got to like load it like a gun or something. Oh yeah, I forgot you got to open. Wait, there you go. So it's like a 45 caliber, a Colt 45 or something, loading the sucker. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, we're down the final stretch of spring training. The regular season is just inches away there, so kind of do a check-in episode. This is going to be a very stats-driven episode. Again, I'm not a huge fan of stats here, but of course we're entering into the regular season here. We'll kind of look at some players that are pretty much doing well. I know there's been a lot of negativity this spring with all the injuries, of course, with Stan and Cole and Luis Hill and so forth there, but I guess we're going to highlight some of the positives of some players there, so have something to look forward to. Of course, we'll give you some injury updates, and now there's a new one with Paul Goldschmidt, but you probably shouldn't be too worried about that. But again, this is going to be a very stats-intensive episode, so make sure you put the volume up a little bit lower, you put your ear a little bit closer to wherever you're watching this episode there. So just about to get started, but before we do, I have to remind you always about the end of the regular season. So we got 162 games ahead of us. Going to be a lot of stuff: wins, losses, losing streaks. Great games, great painful losses there. So you want to get it all, you want to get my take. So there's an audio podcast version of the show. So wherever you get your favorite podcast, look for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, subscribe. And of course, you should be doing that here already on YouTube. If you're watching, subscribe. And of course, you're on TV, watch this on TV. Well, you can get this much sooner, and you can get on some of your devices. You want to watch it on the subway, you want to watch at work if you're bored there. So wherever you get, go to YouTube, look for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe. And of course, go to the audio pod, wherever you get your favorite podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Get everything for the 2025 season. So, of course, last episode, the theme was the whole shock and awe of losing Garrett Cole to the season for Tommy John surgery. So he did have successful surgery there, so that's all put in place there. He has a brace on his elbow, and we don't really know the timetable when he's coming back. But, of course, 2025 is completely off the table for him. So I guess the second major injury to that, of course, has been Giancarlo Stanton. First it started off with the elbow issue there, and now we're hearing a latest one now. He has a chronic calf issue, which kind of makes sense. Again, he did tweak the calf last season there, rallying the bases, and it's something he had to deal with in the past. Even want to go back to the 2019 postseason against Houston there, again, running to first base. Also tweaked his calf, and it was out for the rest of that series there, which the Yankees could, use him. Not sure it would have made a difference or not, but we kind of know Stanton has had this calf issue in the past there, so it seems like now it's called a chronic calf there. So not only have the elbow issue with him, but also the chronic calf. Now, I guess the bright side is that the Yankees still haven't really written him off for 2025 yet so far, so it looks like he's still in the conversation. I would figure he's going to probably need surgery. I mean, last time we checked in on this episode here, he already had 3 of those injections there, and it doesn't really seem like be doing wonders for him. I guess it has those slight tears in his elbow, but nevertheless, you're hearing some whispers that they may be projecting, if there's any hope for him, could be back by Memorial Day, which actually I would take that in a second there. Just the way the news with him, it just seemed like he would be out almost half or a whole year. So if it's true that he could possibly be back to Memorial Day, I would take that as a huge victory. But right now, it just doesn't seem likely until you actually see him on the field and taking swings, and him actually be able to perform there. So I'm still kind of count him out for 2025. But the fact is, hearing some whispers that he could be back by Memorial Day, I mean, that would be a huge victory for the Yankees. Which offensively, even without him, I still think they're in a good place there. Again, it's like some of the additions they made there. But if he gets to add Stanton to that mix there, and we know what Stanton could do, even if he's at 80% or 75%, that's still a lot he could contribute for the Yankees there. But in the meantime, again, the DH spot, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit. Seems like a lot of those at-bats might go to Ben Rice early in the season there, and we'll kind of highlight him a little bit, what he's been doing this spring. He's really been lighting it up a little bit. Mentioned him briefly, but we'll kind of focus on him a little bit. But again, you have other options in there. You have some like a Paul Goldschmidt, who again, at 37, he's going to get a bulk of the time at first base there. But at 37, he can use some time in the DH spot. And of course, Aaron Boone mentioned very early on when Stanton was hurting early in spring training that probably he would like to get Aaron Judge some DH spots early in the season. Again, he's getting a little older there, so if he can just get him some DH spots early in the season, just rest his body a little bit, just so he's better prepared and he's not maybe gassed out a little bit in September. I don't think it's ever really been the case with Judge there, but yeah, another year older, so if you can get him some more DH spots in April, May, it all benefits him. But with Stanton there, if he can come back by Memorial Day, that'll be a huge victory for the Yankees. And as I promised you, you're going to get a little bit of Ben Rice talk now, and as well as some stats there. Again, Usually early in spring training, I don't like to go too crazy on stats just because, it's just a handful of games there, a 10, 5 or 6 games there. And even if someone's hitting great, you don't want to go too high on it because it's only been 5 games. Same thing if they're not doing well, if they're only batting like 127, like, oh my God, this person stinks. It's only been 5 games there. So, but I like this point where we're almost at the end of spring training where I think now that some of these numbers could be a little bit legit. Now, also we know the situation. A lot of times you're facing, pitchers who are just working on stuff. They're not really trying to get you out there, just trying to get a grip for their fastball or the curveball. So it might not be as sharp as it would be maybe in June or July there. So yeah, and they usually say sometimes, it's always back and forth where the pitchers are ahead of the hitters or the hitters are ahead of the pitchers. And again, and you also have pitchers in there as well who might be, in double A ball, single A ball, and triple A ball, exactly major league level there. So again, don't go too crazy over the offensive stats, but in some cases there, I think it's worth pointing out. Just for overall the team, there are a number of guys who are hitting well entering the season there. So even with the loss of Stanton there, I think really the offense has a good chance of getting off to a good start there, which you're going to need there because, again, the pitch is going to be a little bit thin because without Garrett Cole and, of course, without Luis Gil, at least for almost the first 2.5, maybe even 3 months of the season there. But again, the focus on Ben Rice because obviously now with the DH spot open there, it seemed like he's got the lead in there to get most of those at-bats early on. Again, the games where they don't want to get Judge off his feet there. And if we look at Ben Rice, remember from last season, came up for a brief cup of coffee. Had that 3 home run performance against the Red Sox and had a little thing go for a while where even Boone put him in the leadoff position. But I think either, obviously the scouts get to eventually, and I think Ben obviously struggled after that and really wasn't able to, able to compete for the job there. Ended up losing it to Rizzo once Rizzo came back, and Ben Rice, they brought him back up later in the season there. But you could still see that he did struggle there. He was hitting on the 200 there. So, even though he had a good initial start for the Yankees, eventually, the scouts and the majors caught up to him. But this season and in the spring there, he's got off to a really good start there. So, we'll just look at the numbers right. So, as of right now, hitting 279, but what's gotten people's attention, not only has he had the 12 hits, but 4 home runs with 8 RBIs. Now, he did come into camp 10 pounds heavy, so he wanted to put on a little bit muscle a little bit, and it seems to be paying off. And what they're really looking at him is his exit velo. So far, his exit velo this spring on average has been 97.4. So obviously that's the exit velo, that's the miles per hour as the ball's coming off your bat. Now you figure, is that good? Is that bad? Is that impressive? Well, I guess just to sort of give you, I guess something to feed off of. Let's look at Aaron Judge's teammate in the story in the New York Post. They looked into it. So Judge's exit velo last season, so that's across 162 games, he led all of majors there at 96.2. So right now in just, a handful of games here, and I guess he's had 152 at-bats so far in spring training, Ben Rice's exit velo has been 1 mile per hour stronger than Aaron Judge's all of last season there. So again, over the long haul, if you give 162 to Ben Rice and 162 over Judge, I'm sure Judge will have a higher exit velo. But just to show that the way the ball's been bouncing off his bat so far in the spring there, again, you see the difference. So, and what they could do is that in a situation where maybe a year ago, maybe you would have had a fly out with a little bit more exit velo, that's a ball that maybe falls into the gap or it's hit sharper. Maybe it's hit over the wall for a home run there. So again, that 1 extra mile here or there does make a difference there, and you can see why he's hit 4 home runs this spring. And what's also good about Ben Rice, now obviously you throw him as a DH, but we know the versatility. He could play first base, which is why he came up last season. And surprisingly, to start out spring there, Aaron Boone has been confident to put him there as a catcher there. So, probably J.C. Escara will get the backup catcher position there, but, you also have Ben Rice as well, just as a third option, or someone gets hurt there. And again, you can move around because you get a game where you have to switch players out there, and you can play first base. You can also catch as well. You probably can see a ton of them at catcher. You probably more just be first base, DH there, but again, but his bat's been impressive there. So don't be surprised early on in DH spot, you see a lot of Ben Rice. Now, also this spring, I really haven't mentioned much of Cody Bellinger. Obviously, the Yankees kind of went after him right after they kind of lost out on the Juan Soto sweepstakes there. And quietly, he's just been going about his business. I mean, you really haven't heard anything about him in terms of any injuries or anything else like that. But he has been raking there and really haven't had a chance to really go over his stats just because kind of he's been under the radar this entire spring training. Because we've dealing with the Stanton injury and, of course, dealing with the Garrett Cole stuff with, obviously the Tom and John there. So something like Bellinger, if you remember that guy, I mean, this is a former MVP. This is a former Rookie of the Year. This is a former World Series champion. champion. And, obviously he struggled a little bit afterwards. And, I was kind of on a different podcast very recently, kind of discussing it with him. And we all kind of forget he got a dislocated shoulder during the 2020 season there, which probably why he's, a couple of years after that, he kind of fell off the wagon a little bit, so to speak, in terms of his offensive production. Rediscovered himself with the Cubs. Again, he struggled a little bit last season for various reasons. And, of course, playing out in Wrigley Field there, the wind's a little tricky there. But I think, again, he has an opportunity to really tee off on the season. And looks like he's kind of fully recovered from that dislocated shoulder. You might think, does it take 4 or 5 years to recover from a dislocated shoulder? Well, yeah, man, you're not going to have your power back for a while there. But, again, he has been raking this spring. And, again, since we're almost at the end of spring, I think it's at least a good litmus test to see where he's at there. And the numbers kind of popping off the chart. Not much with the power production, but just the hitting, which most importantly, you just want to make someone making contact hitting there as well. So batting only .471. So this guy's close to batting .500 there. Quite impressive. Only has 2 home runs there with 4 RBIs. So again, the power hasn't really been back there. But just in terms of the hitting, which opens your eyes is 16 hits. So he's gotten 16 hits this spring there. So it looks like, someone, probably batting order-wise, you probably would bat him after Judge there. You obviously want the righty Judge and the lefty bat Bellinger behind him protecting him there, and that's a good spot because if he's hitting a high batting average, it's going to force pitchers to have to pitch at Judge. Otherwise, if he wasn't doing as well, you could pitch around Judge, walk Judge, and just go after the guy afterwards, which has kind of been going along, for teams facing the Yankees the past couple of seasons there because, usually the Yankees are top-heavy. Again, obviously last season, whether going Soto Judge or Judge Soto like that, but usually some of the players behind Judge typically hasn't been doing as well. So a lot of opposing pitchers have been inclined to just walk Judge and just get the next guy out there. Well, if Bellinger's hitting, obviously he's not going to hit 400 during the regular season there. But again, if he's a legitimate 300-plus hitter there, it's going to force other teams to have to pitch at Judge. And, of course, Judge can take advantage of that and rake. And, again, Bellinger, we kind of forget about him. But, again, young guy, he's only 29 years old. Obviously, the Yankees got him this season. There's an option for next season, but you're not really locked into the guy for a long term. I don't know if he's in the long-term Yankee plans there, but at least you probably look at him for both this season and next season. And as I said before, he's a former MVP, former Rookie of the Year, a 2-time All-Star, and a 2-time Silver Slugger there. So is he Juan Soto? No, not too many players are, but he's just one level under that, which ain't terrible at all. Again, probably batting average-wise and kind of working the count and grinding at bats. Does he probably do that as well as Soto does? Probably not. But in terms of power, I think he could be pretty close to that. Minnesota got 41 home runs for the Yankees last season. Batting with Judge near him. So can Bellinger do something similar? I can't see why not. Maybe not 41 home runs, but is 30 home runs crazy to expect? No. So this might be turn out to be a really good. If you look at the Yankees, sometimes you bring a guy in and it pays off. It really pays off. I think Bellinger could be one of those guys there if he stays healthy. And of course, he could play all the outfield positions. He has flexibility. He could also play a little first base if need be. So the Yankees could shuffle him around there. And again, whether you want to give somebody a break there, or when you give Goldschmidt or somebody a break at first base, you could also put Bellinger. Bellinger's probably going to get most of the time out in the outfield there. And, of course, we discussed before the whole situation. They'll probably look at him in center field and then Dominguez in left field. I don't think that's going to work out long term there. Again, I just think Dominguez is going to struggle a little bit. So over the long term, it probably just might be beneficial to have Dominguez in center field and Bellinger play left, which he can handle there. But, again, the Yankees are probably going to at least try Dominguez out there at the start of the season and see where it goes. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a butcher ball, just trying to judge those fly balls there, which seems to have been struggling a little bit. Again, and kind of him and Bellinger working in the outfield. There's been times where like Dominguez, kind of defers to Bellinger a little bit when he shouldn't develop. So, I think Dominguez still a work in progress in the left field, but at least the good thing with Bellinger, he can play the all outfield positions, but mainly the hitting there, raking. Again, batting .471 right now. So, again, if you pair him with Judge, probably batting behind Judge there, it's only going to help Judge. Again, not Juan Soto, but just as close. Now, we previously discussed Aaron Boone using Orson Welles as a leadoff hitter a lot this spring, which I don't love it. I mean, I kind of understand, if he's hitting well and getting on base, that's all he cares. You want to get some people on base in front of Aaron Judge to kind of hit a 2 or 3 run home run. I get all that. And, of course, he's not your typical leadoff hitter. Again, you want someone usually a bit of a speedster, get on the base there, steal some bags, and kind of make some things happen for the rest of your lineup there. But nevertheless, looks like Boone's going with it. And the Yankees have been doing this for a couple of seasons. Again, I don't love it. Sometimes we see, like, using Aaron Judge as the leadoff hitter or Anthony Rizzo as a leadoff hitter there. Again, not the hugest fan of it there. I like to have a more typical leadoff hitter, but if Boone wants to experiment a little bit, it's okay. But again, he has been using a lot of Austin Wells. Again, we can highlight he did have 3 home runs out of the leadoff position there, but as much as home runs are great, everyone can hit home runs there. Again, your opposing pitches in spring training aren't going to be the same type of opposing pitches you're going to see in May and June, but nevertheless, worth pointing out the 3 home runs. But you also want to look at the batting average as well, because that's important, making the contact, getting hits there, and right up to the spring, again, hitting right now at this moment 355. So again, very impressive for him. He had the 3 home runs as I mentioned, 6 RBIs there. So it looks like he should be able to get to a good start of the regular season. Last season was kind of interesting to me. Obviously, came on the scene. He took the starting catcher job from Trevino. Had some good early success. I thought maybe Boone stuck with him a little too much in that cleanoff spot there. We really started to see him struggle, mightily a little bit there. But again, I think it helps him that now you had that season in the rearview mirror with him. Now he knows he's the full-time starting catcher there. I think that's just helpful mentally there. Defensive, again, no problem there. Obviously the transfer from the ball to throw to second base, get gun runners out. He's one of the at least up there in the league there. But in terms of the hitting there, you just want to see him carry that the entire season. Whereas last season got off to a good early start, but then it seemed like he tired out a little bit there. But hopefully now he has a little bit more endurance there. He can stick it out there. But again, if he can keep that 355 average, he's probably not going to do that in the regular season there. But again, if he could be like a 280 type of hitter there, and if you want to put him at the top of the lineup, okay. I think he's a little bit more, sort of down lower. I think you need to find someone else for that leadoff spot there. I know the Yankees started off last season with Anthony Volpe there, and he got off to a really good start. Remember that this series in Houston there, he really opened your eyes there. But then again, it looks like he kind of faded out a little bit, and again, Boone had to drop him down in the batting order. Perhaps it could be an opportunity, and kind of discuss this. Again, I did a guest spot recently on another podcast there of reconsidering Anthony Volpe for that leadoff spot there, just because what we saw in the playoffs from him. He looked like a different man, similar to Gleyber Torres. I mean, laying off the tough pitches, swinging at only good pitches. We saw a little pop from him as at bat there. Maybe he's mature enough where he could maybe at some point, maybe not to start the season, maybe want to start the season with Austin Wells there, just to because you've been doing it this spring there. But at some point, maybe Anthony Volpe, because he gives you the speed as well. I mean, you want someone that could get on base, lay off tough pitches there, get on base, but also steal some bags as well. You're probably not going to get that with Austin Wells there. So, okay, you want to start the season with Austin Wells in the leadoff position, but maybe, again, if all things goes well, you may want to consider swapping Volpe back in there. Now, Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone kind of have to whittle down the squad there. Obviously, to have 26 players in there. And again, a lot of players are performing pretty well. And they're the type of players you would consider bench players, but of course, you can only have so many bench players there. So, again, Cashman and Boone are going to have to make some tough decisions there. But again, a couple of players that are worth highlighting. Again, of course, I mentioned the good hitting of Bellinger as well as Austin Wells. But again, those guys you would consider already penciled in as starters. But if we look at the Yankee bench there, it's been quite interesting. Now, Peraza has not been doing too well at Springs, and that's kind of why he seemingly lost the third base job to Cabrera. Again, it's not finalized, but it's just to seem the way it's going. Not exactly Cabrera's ripping the cover off the ball, but of course they do much better than Peraza. Now, the thing with Peraza, as we all know, he's out of options there. So either you're going to have to designate for assignment, put him on the waiver wires, or have him join the Major League club and just hope that at some point it just kicks in for him. Obviously, seemingly he's going to be a role player unless someone gets hurt and he has to fill in, at one of the infield positions, which, if that happens, that's not a good news because obviously you don't want to see Volpe or Jazz or even Cabrera get hurt there. Obviously, Cabrera of the three will be the less, painful one, but if something happens to Volpe or Jazz, not good news there. So again, the Yankees have to find out what they can do with Peraza, and of course you have DJ LeMahieu because right now he's out of the picture, dealing with the calf issue. They say he's progressing. No one's giving a timetable on him, and he's just in a weird spot with the Yankees because you have him under contract for this season as well as next season. We all know the underperformance and injury problems with him, but it's going to be a problem just because who he is and his resume and the money he makes. There's probably going to have to be a spot on him on this 26-man roster at some point. But that's just going to be interesting what you do with someone between like DJ LeMahieu and a Peraza who's not performing there. But again, Peraza's not really making any money. That doesn't really hurt you there. So going to be kind of interesting how you whittle these down. But on the positive note, look at some players that are going to give the Yankees a tough decision to make. That one of them, of course, be the former Met, former Red Sox, Dom Smith, who, interesting enough, took Juan Soto's 22. So, Dom Smith came up through the Mets system. Juan Soto gets signed by the Mets, and now Dom Smith got Juan Soto's 22 as a Yankee there. So it's kind of funny how that all works out. But if you look at Dom Smith, again, who's had a really good spring in 11 games, 31 at bats. So that's a good, it's a good sizable test there to look at somebody hitting 323. So there's another guy hitting well over 300, 3 home runs and 12 RBIs. So again, not all the RBIs coming off the home run. Only has 3 home runs and 12 RBIs. So very impressive. And what do you do with a guy like that? Obviously, we know what he is. He's a first baseman slash DH now. Obviously, when he came up originally with the Mets, he was also a left fielder there, but I think those days are kind of done. Not that he's an old guy there, but it seemed like he's kind of relegated to first base or pinch hit, or DH type of role there. Well, Yankees kind of have that already with Ben Rice already, and then of course, you get Paul Goldschmidt's going to be an everyday first baseman, and then when DJ LeMahieu comes back at some point there, DJ might get also a little time at first base, and of course we also just mentioned before, Cody Bellinger could also play first base. So I don't know exactly if there's a room for Dom Smith. He's been performing very well this spring, so it's going to be interesting if he's going to be able to make the team or not. Or you could have him in AAA and just have him play down there and so just wait until a spot opens via injury or something else there. But that's a tough decision to make there. But I think what's more of a sure bet is Trent Grisham. The only reason is because the Yankees are paying him $5 million, and obviously he was with the team last year. He's what you call a full-time, not say full-time, but he's a major league type player. He's not a guy you send down to the minors there. With Dom Smith is kind of borderline where, again, he was initially cut last season at some point there, so he's not really owed anything. Trent Grisham, obviously not because you're paying him $5 million, but of course he's not the type of guy you're going to send down, so he'll more likely make the team than Dom Smith there. But if you want to look at his numbers, also very impressive this spring. Now, not as many games. Remember, initially he lost a little time early on because he came into camp with a hamstring, but so far at this point, 9 games under his belt, 19 at-bats, so not a ton, but hitting .316, which is much higher than he usually does hit there. 4 home runs, which can open your eyes there, and 6 RBIs. So 6 RBIs mostly responsible for Trent Grisham. He could pop one once in a while, but 4 home runs in spring and a very limited amount of at-bats here. Quite impressive. So at least power-wise there, at least a good sign for him. But again, he's automatically going to be on this team. Again, he's a glove guy more than anything else. Even though these offensive numbers have been good in spring there, obviously he's a former Gold Glover, and that's kind of the Yankees used him last season, pretty much as a pinch hitter slash maybe spots on him once in a while. But he's going to be a late innings defensive guy, especially for probably more for center field if anything else. Or you could do some stuff like that where maybe take Bellinger if you start the season with him in center. You can move him to the right, give Judge the rest of the game off, and you put Trent Grisham in center field. So Trent Grisham, very likely, of course, he's probably going to make the team. Dom Smith is going to be just a tough decision for the Yankees to make because he's hitting very well. He's making a good case for himself, but the Yankees are somewhat log-jammed at that first base DH position there. So I don't think the Yankees can do it with him, or you can just have him maybe somehow put him in AAA and just let him play out there, and just maybe if someone goes down, someone gets hurt, whatever, he has to come up, have him there in the reserve tank. Now the Yankees got a little bit injury scared. It shouldn't be a big scare, but of course with Paul Goldschmidt, you think, oh my God, another Yankee injury there. But, it did raise eyebrows a little bit. Obviously, there was a game against the Blue Jays. After 2 at-bats, he needed to be taken out. And I guess the backstory with that is that he's been dealing with a sore back previously with that. And I guess maybe just didn't feel too good in that game. And more precautionary, they took him out. And, of course, he spoke to reporters right after the game, said no, it was only precautionary, just to, why take any chances there. And he felt that if it was during the regular season, he probably would be playing. And he fully expects to be there for opening day. And that's good news because he's yet another Yankee who has been doing very well this spring with his stats. And again, I promise you this is a stats episode, so I'll give you his line right now as we're just about to enter the 2025 regular season. Batting .313. Now, remember last season he got off to a really bad start with the Cardinals. Obviously, he made a few adjustments there, and at the end of the season, he ended up with a .242 batting average, which you say wasn't that great. But the last couple of months of the season, he did rake. So whatever adjustments he made, and seemingly the adjustments he carried over the spring, has paid off. Again, hitting .313, not too bad there. 10 hits, 3 home runs, so showing the power, and 10 RBIs. Now, 37 years old, so not a spring chicken there. But again, looks like he's whatever tweaks he made last season, he brought into this season, has been paying off there. And again, of all the positions for the Yankees, I think this is going to be the biggest contribution because, the last couple of seasons we've got nothing out of first base. Obviously, Rizzo dealing, 2 years ago, had the concussion, injury at first base. Then we had the collision with Tatis Jr. And, of course, there's just some underperformance. And really, last season, just the lack of power. I mean, the power was gone for him. Unfortunately, he's really in the playoffs there where he actually hit well, but he was pretty much relegated to be a singles hitter. He would just bloop the ball opposite field there. But first base, you need some pop, you need some power. And, of course, ready to beat it to death with DJ LeMahieu. Just his problems not only with the injury, with the foot and other areas there, but the lack of power as well for him. So the Yankees haven't been getting much production from first base there. So with Paul Goldschmidt, if it's just a small sample size, they're going to get more production in first base in this upcoming season than they've gotten in recent years. And again, even someone like Ben Rice, if the way he's raking the spring there. So first base, for the Yankees, looking very promising, where the past couple of seasons it's been quite bleak. So with a couple of slots opening in the starting 5 there, one of the surprising candidates for the position has been Carlos Carrasco, and the former Cleveland I guess Indian / Guardian / Met there. Again, he came up with the Cleveland Indians for a while then. He got traded to the Mets, and of course the Cleveland changed it to themselves and the Guardians. So he was most recently with the Guardians. He did not have a good season last year. It was like 3-13, high REA. Looked like he was completely finished there. He was a bit of a fan and club favorite there, so maybe they kept him around a little bit more than that there. But it looked like he was pretty much done. But now he's had a little resurgence with the Yankees. Again, signing him to a minor league deal, bringing him in there. And the whole justification of bringing him in was Brian Cashman was, yeah, even though his record, his ERA was terrible, but they was looking at his stuff, quote, so to speak, and his swing and miss stuff there was just as good, as well as getting the ground balls there. So I think Cashman's analytics used that there as an excuse to bring him in. And I got to say, hey, so far in spring training, that has been the case. Again, Boone's been raving about his swing and miss stuff. So it looks like he still has that. Now, with that, Carlos Carrasco mentioned that during this offseason, he did work on a few mechanics there, mechanical changes, which, which has helped him so far this spring there. Looks like it's going to pay off there. And as much as when they brought him in, it almost seemed like a joke, at least early on the season, he might be an integral piece there. And the way he's performing, looks like he will be one of those starting five that at least start the season. And when just, now we'll get some pitching stats for you on this one there. So he pitched in 4 games. 3 of those 4 games, he was a starter. Gave the Yankees 11 innings. Only surrendered 6 hits, so obviously 11 innings, only 6 hits, so that's good there. And on that note, only 6 walks, another good note there. Only had 3 earned runs. Now, from those runs, 2 of those were from home runs. So 3 earned runs, from 2 home runs is those 2 bad pitches. You can't really fault them there, so that's a good sign there. But which has been impressive has been the 12 strikeouts in 11 innings. So just about averaging a strikeout per inning, just a tad bit more than that. So that's a good stat you want to look at. And his pitch, all this in mind, to a 2.45 ERA. So an ERA well under 3 there, it's good. And a whip of 1.09 there. So very good numbers with that. And it's the fact that swing and miss stuff there. And again, getting the strikeouts, which that's the reason why the Yankees justified bringing him in there. And it looks like it's going to pay off. Now, it's going to get a little interesting with him before the season even starts. Now, he's 37 years old. Interesting enough, now on March 21st, he's going to turn 38. And then a day later, March 22nd, he does have an opt-out clause in his contract. And this is probably a performance-based thing where he felt if he was doing well, he could opt out of his deal and either force the Yankees to have to pay him more, give him a bigger deal, or maybe someone else impressed what he's doing with the Yankees might want to sign him there. So potentially the Yankees could lose him there a little bit if he opts out. But seemingly, this is the way both sides have been talking there. They've been raving about him. He's been very happy so far pitching for the Yankees this spring there. So more than likely, he may opt out on March 22nd there, but they'll probably restructure the deal and have him sign him, and he'll probably be with the team to start the season. Now, I don't know, realistically, is he going to be the whole way, the whole season? No. It could be, I can see a situation in where he maybe makes a handful of starts in April or May, and the Yankees, for whatever reason, end up DFAing him or just, or giving him assignment, which he'll refuse, and then maybe he'll want to opt out and become a free agent. And again, look, if he's pitching well at age 38 and he's sort of get a renaissance to his career and then he could go a few more seasons, hey, all good for him there. But it looks like the Yankees are high on him to at least be one of the starting 5 there. So like early on, he's going to be one of those guys there. And when they brought him in, a lot of, obviously he was supposed to be someone, they made the deal to get him before Cole went down, before Luis Hill went down. He was someone who the Yankees were kind of park in AAA for a while. It's like, all right, hey, if we need you for a spot start. And early on in the season, you kind of do need guys like that. You know how April is. You have a lot of rainouts. You have double headers. You have kind of the scheduled off days. So you're starting, sometimes you almost need like 6 starters to really start the season. And everyone's kind of thrown out of whack a little bit mainly because the weather in New York in April, May, you have a lot of showers, a lot of rainouts. So sometimes you need 2 starters one day. So if you have a guy like that parked in AAA, if you just bring up for a spot start for a doubleheader, that was what his role was supposed to be. But because of the injuries to Cole and Luis Hill now, you're now going to be counting a lot there. So, don't surprise you see, him get the ball a lot early on the season. And, if he becomes like, we've seen the Yankees have this in the past when they bought in Bartolo Colon. He was effective for the Yankees. Even someone like Freddie Garcia had a little bit of a renaissance late in their 30s as well. So you might see a little bit of that with Carrasco. So that's the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube and as well as the audio podcast version of the show wherever you get your favorite podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. And again, the Yankees have a very good season, at least to look forward to. Offensive, I just went over some of the numbers. Have to tread water a little bit with the starting pitching staff there. But again, even with the injuries to Cole and Stanton there, I think they have a great chance to give you a good start of the season. So play ball.
Yeah.